Today in this PowerPoint, we are going to discuss about physical changes and chemical changes. In everyday life, we experience different changes, and by now you have already understood these changes can be broadly classified into physical changes and chemical changes. So let's see what are the characteristics which helps you to distinguish whether the change happened is physical or chemical. So first let's see what are the characteristics of a physical change. During a physical change, no new substance is formed. That is, chemical composition of the substance before and after change remains the same. Physical changes are reversible. For example, when we boil water, it changes into water vapor. And when we cool down that water vapor, it changes back into water. And whenever a physical change happens, the substance undergoes changes only in its physical properties such as shape, size, color, or state of the substance. Here we have taken an example of physical change, that is melting of ice. When ice melts, it changes into water. So here only the change occurred in its physical state, that is from solid state it gets converted into its liquid state. Before melting and after melting, it chemically comprises of water molecules. So no new substances formed here. Water can be converted back into ice by freezing water. Hence the change is reversible. Since the change occurred only in its physical state, there was no new substance formed and the change is reversible. Hence the process of melting of ice can be described as a physical change. So now let's see the characteristics of a chemical changes. During a chemical change, one or more new substances are formed, and the new substance thus formed had different properties and chemical composition from the original substance. Most of the chemical change are irreversible, that is, we cannot reverse the change. Suppose when we burn a paper, it gets converted into ash. The ash thus formed cannot be converted back into paper. Chemical changes are often characterized by one or more of the following changes. That is, change in color or evolution of a gas, that is release of a gas. Change in temperature, that is either you can observe increase in temperature or there is a decrease in temperature. Formation of a solid substance or precipitate. So whenever a chemical change happens, you can see one of these changes or more than one changes happening together. Here we have taken rusting of iron as an example for chemical change. When iron is exposed to air and moisture, it combines with the oxygen present in air and water vapor present as moisture in atmosphere to form iron oxide, which is generally called as rust. So when iron reacts with oxygen, iron oxide is formed, which is chemically different from the initial substance, that is iron. The first thing we notice when iron rust is a change in its color, which is developed on the surface of iron. It would be either yellowish or reddish brown in color. Thus, when iron rusts, there is a formation of a new substance, change in color, and definitely the process is irreversible. So all this indicates that rusting of iron is a chemical change. So I hope you are thorough with the concept of physical and chemical changes. Here in this slide, I have provided you with two questions. First one is in the form of a table. So in first column, under activity and process, I have listed 10 questions. Now what you have to do is, you have to write down the observation or the changes you would notice in case of each activities. So against each activity, you have to write down its observation and changes. And after that, in the third column, you have to classify these activities into physical changes and chemical changes based on your observations you have written down. The second question is a descriptive type question. So you have to write your answer, describe it properly according to the requirement of the question. As of now, you will write these two questions in a notebook and maintain that book very properly, since you will be required to write more practice questions provided to you further. Thank you, children.